Yeah, YouTubers, Tazman here, bringing you another episode of Foundry Virtual Tabletop, version 12 from the ground up. And in our last episode, we focused on what the player sees. We also went over the token HUD a bit, and I talked about some things, and I thought maybe we'd actually test it to show what I was talking about. So when we were talking about journal notes, and you'll see here that if I click on, this is GM view, by the way, you'll notice because they have more buttons, but we have this note that we created, and we were talking about global visibility, and I was thinking, I could have just shown how this works, or how I believe it works, and then of course I didn't have a chance. Well, I spaced it. Okay, I'll be honest, I spaced it, but I was going to test it, but then just as I was starting the recording, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe we could check this. So from what I understand, we'll double check it, like I said, is we have our character here, and right now they don't see the journal note unless it's actually there, or if we click that, then it will actually be visible at all times. However, if there is a wall where they can no longer see, this is what I wanted to show you. So if we come in here, and we're going to add a wall, and we'll talk about this in more depth, just kind of go with this for a minute. So we're going to make it so we can see it, so I don't draw the wall in the wrong spot. Actually, wait, did I tell it to? There we go. So if I do this, now I can draw a wall. We'll just do a regular wall, and we'll put it between the player and the journal note. And if I'm correct, if I click on this, even though the journal note is now set to show, because there's a wall right there, you'll see, well, the player's not going to be able to move because it's paused, but you'll see that the player cannot see that journal note. If I have this set to global, I have to go back to journal note mode, the journal layer, and set this to global. Just because the player is behind a wall, they can actually still access it. The other thing that I realized I was kind of getting confused is basically the players can't actually click on a note at all. So if you don't want them to see a note or the information in it, you can actually, if it has a journal entry and they don't have permission to that journal entry, then they don't really see the note, if that makes sense. But anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to quickly go over. So we'll go over walls in just a little bit. So like I said, in the last episode, we really kind of went over what the player sees when they click on their token. They can't click on other tokens. However, if you're the GM, you're going to see, I have to go back to token mode, but as the GM, if I right click on a token, you can see that I see the same things. This is, where it is in a stack. This is basically saying if I have two tokens, let's just kind of put this guy there, and you'll see he's behind. If I right click on this guy and move him to the top, now you'll see he's actually on top of the stack of tokens. Generally, you don't even want tokens to be stacked. I'm going to not put him in an actual square. He's going to be in the middle of a square. So that's what that's talking about. These other options, I believe, I don't think the player has the toggle visibility. And I did mention, I think, that this visibility is not the same as invisible. If he has see invisibility, he's not going to be able to do that. And I kind of feel like I already went over that in one of the previous ones. But I just want to clarify that there is actually a status effect. If we click here, there actually is a status effect in here called invisibility, which will react with special vision types, where maybe you have blind sense and they're close enough that you can sense them. This does not. So as a GM, this is basically if you do not want that token to be seen no matter what by players. Usually what I'll do is usually in a room that if someone just comes in, they'll already be invisible, just in case, something happened where they peeked in the room or something. And then I'll make things visible as I'm reading the description of what's going on in there. So other than that, let's just double check, because I'm trying to remember now what the player actually sees. If I go to token mode and click on the player, yeah, they have the elevation, they have the raise and lower on the stack, they have status effects, they have target, and they have combat status, or, you know, are they in combat or not. So that's all they have. The difference is that GM has this one and this one right here. This is the same as right clicking twice on the token. It will pull up the token prototype token configuration. Okay, now all that's done. Hopefully that was the things I wanted to clarify from the previous video. There were no comments, so I don't need to really go into anything as far as that goes. Let's go and make this guy visible again. And let's talk about our other options. So we went over the options for token controls. We have selecting tokens. So if you have the ability to select more than one token, you can do that by dragging. And I also believe I mentioned that a good thing to have marked in your thing is in the core portion, or if you're in all, that's fine as well. There is a spot in here that says left click to release an object, which means to release these guys, all I have to do is left click off of them somewhere on the thing, where normally the default is you have to drag a small box on something that you cannot actually control. Trying to figure out what I was trying to say there. So we have that. We have the target, where you can actually target things. If we hold down shift, we can target more than one. And then we also have the ruler, which is to measure your distances from, you know, how far am I from him? 15 feet. He's 20 feet. He is 16.65 because he's not actually in the middle of a square. So then we had our measurement tools. These, once again, are the same. However, the GM also has a clear all templates. So basically, a player, if they place a template, they have to mouse over it and then hit the backspace to get rid of it. A GM, if we have multiple templates here, they can actually just say, okay, I'm getting rid of all these templates now. So we have all these templates. I can just click that, say yes, and it will get rid of every template on the entire map. Then we have, as GM, we also have tiles, and I think, I don't remember adding this guy. And I don't even know what it is. Did I talk about tiles? I kind of feel like I did at one point. I'm going to pretend like I didn't, because I can't remember, and I don't want to, you know, slow down the video by, you know, going to do that. So tiles, basically your options here is to place a tile. Of course, we have select, so if you have a tile out there, you can select it. We have a tile browser, so we can actually go look at what kind of tiles we have. I did add a few tiles in here. I think I put them under images and tiles. So we have like a little box, and we have a small tree. And then we have where that tile is going to go. The default is the foreground layer, which is, or I mean, the default is the actual what's it called? the canvas layer. And then of course, if you click on this, then it will be more of a roof or above tile. Once again, difference between that is kind of your elevation and stuff like that. And then down here we have this to force the tile when we're placing it to snap to grid. In other words, it will let you place it between grid. Does this one do anything when we do it? Nope. So just to give a quick example of that, so if I wanted to place a tile really quick, and we have this set as not foreground layer, so if we come in here and we're going to set a tile, we'll make it fairly large, and I believe let's go ahead and just set our image, and we'll make this the pine green, and go ahead and say create tile. So here you can see we have a tile. If we bring our token, we have to be in the token, sorry, nope, sorry, nope, no, no. If we bring our token up here, this is not going to work out very well because there's no light on the map. Oh, it's paused. Actually, no. I'm in ruler, that's why. So if we do this and bring our token up to the tile and we go, because it's on the canvas layer, we're kind of above the tile, right? If we were to make this an overhead tile, which is the same as, whoops, click on the tile there. If we come in here, our option, let's just go through our options, because it's over here that we can actually make it overhead and how high overhead. So our options we can get by, I don't think you can double left click. Oh yeah, you can actually. So here, of course, we have our raise and lower. We have the elevation. We can make it so it's visible or invisible to the players. We can also lock it so that on accident we don't grab it and move it. So if this is where that tile is going to be, we can actually lock it. And now you'll see that I cannot move it, but I can still click it and modify it. So that is kind of a handy thing there. So let's go over our options in here. So obviously we have whether it is a image or a video. I believe it is the WebM videos that it supports. It might, I'm trying to remember if it supports, I don't think it supports like MP4 necessarily. And if you click on this, I don't think it actually tells you the type. Let's see if they were, no, they just have all files. So it's not actually going to give you a type. But you do have the option, you know, find your tile. You have your X and Y coordinate of your corner. I believe it usually is this upper corner right here. You have a sort order. In case I had two trees, I could have one, even though they're on the same elevation, I could have one that will show above the other one. We have our width and our height, because these are the squares and they're 200 each, because remember that our actual squares are these little guys right here. That means that this is 4 tiles across, which is 10, 20, 30, or wait, what am I thinking right? 400 pixels, yeah, because 10, I think these are 10, did I do these as 10? Now I'm drawing complete blanks. But anyway, yeah, that's your width and your height of it in pixels. Oh, not in grid. It's the pixels of it. So if just so you know the logic, I'll explain it because I just remembered. So if we go in here and we go under grid, you'll see that each grid that we call 5 feet is actually 100 pixels. So therefore, if we count these, there's 100, 200, 300, 400. 100, 200, 300, 400. So that's the 400, just so you know where it's coming from. All right, so come back in here. That's that. We have our tile scale. This is if you wanted to squish it or something. If we, you know, kind of changed one of these to 2, you'll see that it actually, even though the tile is still 400 by 400, it's stretched twice as far in the vertical. So technically, it doesn't consider this tile to be out here. And then, of course, we could do the same with the horizontal. I usually don't mess with that much. Then we have the rotation. So if we wanted to rotate it, you know, 15 degrees, we could do that. So it just maybe looks a little different than other exact same tiles that we have. Just so, you know, it doesn't look like they're just carbon copies of each other, even though they technically are. We have our opacity, so how visible it is. So you can see it goes from 0 to 1. We have the color of the tint. So if we wanted to kind of, let's imagine that our whole scene had this tint to it. Let's say we wanted to kind of look like it was a frozen wasteland without like putting snow on the tree. We could actually, you know, change the tint. Actually, that's a terrible color for that. Let's find a really light one or something. This probably isn't a very good example. Maybe we can make it more autumny or something. There you go. Kind of make it a fire tree or something. The blue wasn't the best. Actually, probably a real blue would be more of a accurate, like a dark real blue. You kind of get, if the whole scene had a blue tint to it, that would kind of look like it's more of a dusk type of thing. So you can do that. We'll go ahead and set it back to the all Fs, which is white, which is no tint. Then we have our overhead. So this is where you can set the elevation. This is the exact same elevation that you set when we right click it once. We can do the I can't say this, occlusion mode. So none means it's always visible. So let's go ahead and put this up 10 feet. Just so that now if we come in here, you'll see it's actually up 10 feet. And if Joseph here, and I'm on the right layer, if he goes under it, since he's at 0, you'll notice that it shows him going under it. But once he's under it, you can't see Joseph anymore. So to select Joseph, we'd have to do something like that, or know exactly where his token was, which is pretty easy with that. But as a player, it's not always that easy. If we grab Joseph in here and we undo it, because I have the left click, it's actually okay. But sometimes, like if you can't even see it because Joseph is behind a wall and your main person, this is more if you have multiple people using the same screen, which I do quite a bit with my D&D sessions because not everyone has a laptop. So you'll lose tokens every now and then. But as you can also see, we can't see Joseph at all. So there are some options in here. We actually have, I gotta go to the right layer. The one thing I told you guys I will do a lot is mess up. Wondering why that went bigger all of a sudden. Not sure. I think it had to do with my stretching it. It stretched the actual tile and everything. That's okay. So anyway, we have none, which is always visible. Let's grab Joseph real quick and pull him out. We have where you can fade the entire tile when they go to it. So if we hit update tile there and we click on Joseph, now you'll see that the tile just kind of disappears when they go over it. You can also set how faded that is. So if we come in here, we have our alpha on that. So if we set, to I think like 50-ish, I think that might still leave at least an outline of it. So Joseph is going to come here, he's going to go under it, and now you'll see, you can see Joseph and you can kind of see the tree, but it's not the best. And if we unselect Joseph, we can no longer see him. However, if we have this lower, you also notice that when we actually have that set, if as GM I mouse over it and hold it for a second, it'll actually do that same thing. It'll fade out. So as a GM, I can see any tokens I might have under there. Let's go ahead, right click it again, and maybe set a little less, maybe like 25%. And go back to this mode, and you'll see now it almost fades completely out. So let's go ahead. Gotta change modes again. All right, so that's your fade the entire tile. We also have radial surrounding the token, which is kind of a nice one. This one will actually make a hole in the tree where our token actually is. So if we do that, go back to Joseph, you'll see when he moves under, you'll see it actually is cutting the tree until we unselect him. But as GM, I can still mouse over it and it will end up fading so that I can do that. I don't remember if it does that for players. So if we don't have Joseph, actually with the players, it's still always just showing him, which is actually good. So there's that option. We also have, if we right click, the vision of the token is taken into effect. And I'm trying to remember, I'm drawing a blank what this one actually did. If we go back to our token, you can barely even see that tree. I need to make it more visible. I think that's because he has like dark vision or whatever. So if we change this, let's change it maybe to 40. Oh, I have to go back to it. That's a little better. So now if we click on him, I'm going to have to research that one out because I'm drawing a blank as to what it does. Maybe let's check the player's view from it. Maybe it's a little different here. Oh, it's paused. Now it's unpaused. All right, so if we go back to the player view, it kind of seems like it's just always in whatever state we just told it to be. I'm not sure why it says vision though then. It definitely kind of seems like that is saying that whatever the opacity is what it's going to be, just always on for that vision. So if I turn this back to none and then hit update and go to the player, yeah, it's still there, and of course he'll go under the tree. All right, yeah, so that's kind of, I don't know how to really explain the vision side of that. I'm not sure if that's just poorly worded, but basically that just means that it's always in that state. All right, so let's go back to our player, and not our player, sorry, our GM, and we'll go ahead and add another little guy in here. We'll go add a second one. Maybe just right here we'll add our, I think it was like a chest. No, that's the crate. So we can put that there, and it won't be an overhead tile. But here's our little crate that we just put in. So this is technically a tile, so we can actually, you know, rotate it, I believe, is with the holding control. And it's the same as we were talking about rotating the token. If you hold shift, it's going to do 15-degree increments. And it's really hard to tell that those are 15-degree increments, but they are. If we hold control, I don't know what the actual degree is, but you'll notice it is much more finite. So we can actually, you know, yeah, this crate's over here, and then kind of put it here, and we could have other crates and kind of have that same thing. You can do that same thing with the tree. So if I click on the tree and hold down, oh, it's locked, unlock the tree. And if I hold down control, I can rotate it in those small degrees or rotate it in 15-degree increments. So I forgot to mention that. So that's kind of your overhead tiles. Next we have our drawing tools. This was something, was this? Oh, this was based on if you're, we're at 22 minutes. Dang, we did not get very far. I'm going to do the drawing tools, and then I think we'll call it for this episode. So I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but I'm going to have to, I'm trying to think of, because technically I need some walls to really demonstrate this. Maybe I'll hold off on that, on what I'm thinking for this. But drawing tools is something you can make available to your players through the permissions. I believe the trusted player has permission to use the drawing tools. Your drawing tools are, you can do squares, you can do circles, you can do polygons, you can do freehand, you can do text, and then this is what I was talking about. You can have information drawings, and if we don't have that toggled, now it's set to information drawings. If it's not toggled, they are object drawings, I think is what they're called. So technically they're kind of the same thing, but they react differently to the canvas. Then we have our, once again, focusing snack to grid. We have our configuration. So if we have a drawing selected out here and we click on that, we could also right click it twice. You might be able to left click it. And then we have clear drawings, and that will once again get rid of all drawings no matter whose they are on the entire canvas. So be careful with that one. So let's just talk about these real quick. So we have our, we'll do a rectangle first, and we'll go ahead and put a drawing here. Looks like it's going to be magenta because that's my default color. So you'll notice as a default it's actually clear here. Actually, I'm wrong. This is not what this is the default drawing. So my defaults are set to be hollow. If I wanted to, I'm going to hit delete on that. if I come into here, this is going to be the default configuration for every drawing I do. And you'll see that the default fill type is none. They're solid pattern. If you have a pattern, it will actually ask down here for the texture, or you just leave it at none, your opacity, all that fun stuff. So you can change the default for any drawing, whether it's going to be filled or not. But you can also change it in game. So like if I draw here and say, yeah, I have this, and I'm like, oh wait, that's supposed to be solid. If I right click it twice, we can come in here and say, oh, actually this is filled, update drawing, and now it's filled. We also have it with a slight transparency, and you'll see that the player actually gets to see that. Joseph isn't going to see it as good as everyone else because he has dark vision and we don't have light. But if I were to have light in here, it would actually be the color that I'm drawing. Have the same type of things as we did with our tiles. We have elevation, we have bring to the front, send to the back. We have whether it's visible to the players, and we have locking it. So we have our rectangle, we have circles and ovals, ellipses I guess is what they're actually called. Yep, ellipse. We have our polygons where we can just keep on clicking and get, you know, interesting shapes. And to finish, you do your final click, and then I believe right click is undo. Is it double click? Yes, you double click on the final location. That will join the whole thing. If I want to move it, I can move it because it's a single. It becomes a tile technically after that, but it's a tile with different options. So we can actually come here, we can rotate it just like we did before, control with our rotate, all our fun stuff that we had. If we go in here, there's a couple extra options. Freehand, we'll do freehand in a minute, but it's going to have the same options as well. Should I just do freehand? I don't know. So we have our X, Y coordinates, you know, where it's actually at. The pixel width, 275, 325. The rotation, right now it's at 0. Elevation, if we want to put it in elevation. The sort order would be, you know, if this was a different color one. I believe this one might be, let's go ahead and close that real quick. We're not in select mode. So if we look at this one, this sort order is 1. This is basically the elevations of the things. We can change its line color to a dark purple. And then if we were to move this behind that, you'll see our sort order is basically the same thing. So if you had multiple drawings or something and you wanted this to just be above this one, which is at 2, what we could do is take this one and just set it to 3. And if we update, now that's on top. However, we might have another one that's already at 3, so then you run into, you know, if 2 have the same thing, they'll kind of just overlap each other, and it'll just be a toss-up as to which one actually will be on top. But you can also do the same thing just with your right-clicking here and say bring to the top. This will actually set this one, I believe, to 4 now. So if we come here, double-click, and now you can see it's 4. Then the drawing mode, this is what I was talking about, and I think we're going to come back to this once we get walls and stuff. But drawing mode is whether it's an object. These are all objects on the screen. The other one is information. I'll tell you really quick what it does. An object it has the rules of vision and everything. So if I was on the other side of a wall, all these objects would disappear that I've drawn. If it's information, even though I might not be able to see, I could actually draw, you know, an arrow and it would go into the fog of war or whatever, and I'd still be able to see that arrow. So it's more of an information type of object, I guess. A lot of times, usually what people will do for those is, you know, like if you say there's a wall here and a door, you could say you should go through the wall, you know, out this way. This is the way you're going. We'll go this way. Kind of like that. And if these are information drawings, then technically, no matter whether there's a wall or not, I will be able to see these things. They become visible at all times. Still follow the rules of other objects. You know, this has an elevation of 10. These are below that. They don't have an elevation of 10. If I click on this one, we can set this one to information as well. So that's kind of how that works. Let's go back into our guy here. And so there's that. We have what type of lines. We kind of saw this. So the width of the line, we have the stroke, the opacity, and the smoothing. So the more smooth you make a line, the more rounded it will be. So if I were to come into freehand, this is mostly with the freehand. If I draw a circle kind of like that, you'll see that it's kind of a little jaggedy. But if I were to, and the only way I can, well, actually, maybe we could do it here. Let's see if we can do it here real quick. So come back here, click on that, do that. If I went in here and said that I want this to smooth it out, and we'll just do a nice hard one. Click up here maybe. You'll see now that it's actually kind of smoothing it out. So it's not quite so jagged. If I say full 1, you'll see, we kind of have rounded ends instead of these little straight to jagged. So that's the smoothing factor. The fill we kind of also looked at really quickly. We have the opacity of our fill, which default is 50 or 0.5%. We have image if we want in the fill. We have the color of the fill. We have the fill type, whether it's solid or pattern. And then finally we have text. So text is basically going to be any text that is associated with this. So if I want to stick a label in here, and we'll go SWIRL. So we're going to say swirl. Its default, as you can see here, this is the font, this is the size, this is the color. We can also change the opacity of that. If I hit update drawing, now you can see it has that. Now, just a quick thing about drawings. Past versions, I don't know if it's going to be in this one, but past versions, if you resize a drawing after you have something in there, or sometimes if you move it, this will actually blank out and change to the word new text. It didn't actually have the default value of new text, so it seems to be a lot better now. But just heads up, that might happen. So I think that is pretty much all these. We can get rid of all our drawings, say yes, and boom, they're gone. So in the next episode, we're going to start having a lot of fun because we're going to start doing walls, lights, and sounds, regions, and that will be all of the layer controls. So we did go a little long, 30 minutes. Sorry about that. But I think we got some pretty good stuff covered, I think. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Aside from that, comment, like, and subscribe. Click that little notification bell. Join my Discord channel. Tell other people about my channel. Have them check it out. If they like what they see, they can sub. It's free. Doesn't hurt at all. And that is it, my friends. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.